All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Aloha. Wait, what am I doing? Good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Singularity Lab. I am your co-host, Luis Jimenez. This is your one-stop shop for reliable news, reviews, and commentary on breaking stories in science and technology, futurism, and UAP discoveries. I am your co-man person, lovable, huggable man, bear, pig in charge. Not really. I said co, right? Yeah, co. I'm co-host. I'm your co-host for today. My name's Luis Jimenez, in case you didn't know. If you haven't already, do us a favor. Subscribe, like, share the channel. We're going live today with AVI LOEB, Harvard scientist, founder, and president. I don't know if president's the right word, but founder of the Galileo project, a new scientific study into the UAP phenomenon. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Last time Avi was here, he basically slam dunked all over Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was awesome. If you missed it, we've got clips out there floating around. Go check it out. It was an awesome moment. So we're going to be bringing Michael and Kristen in here in a minute. But I just want to say hello to everybody. Also, don't forget to check out Michael's link tree down below where you can find his Patreon. If you love the Singularity Lab, awesome. Subscribe. Also, subscribe to the Unidentified Celebrity Review, because between these two channels, you get shows 5 days a week. And that Patreon helps us do that. So support us. You know, throw some dollars. Buy us a coffee. Buy us a beer. Buy us a Porsche. The decisions are all there. They're all there for you to decide and choose your path. Anywho, thank you for the support. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. I'm going to say that a lot because it's so important. We're a new channel, so all your support means the world to us. Preston, what is happening? Simon Fly, welcome to the show. Chris Mullins is here. April Bathory. Hello, April. I think that's the first time I've seen April's name, so if you're not new, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. Bio Nerd, thank you for being here. Gray Troll, hello. Christopher Morales, ¿cómo estás? Aaron Desario, friend of the show. How you doing? How are we doing, baby? Ethereal Aura's here. System Failure 3, welcome. David, Kalik. All right, all we're waiting on is Mr. AVI LOEB. He should be here any moment. In the meantime, let's bring on some familiar faces, shall we? Oh no, I lost the music. Hold on. Oh, there we go. There it is. You know why? Because I'm not hitting the volume. I'm hitting the timeline. There we go. And I'll bring this down just a little bit and bring on our host and co-host, Mr. and Mrs. Michael Mataluni. Hey guys.
Hello, our coasts. I like
our
it.
Coasts. I didn't even realize I did that. Our coasts. I dig it. Very
From
fun.
coast to coast.
From host to coast.
From host to coast. Welcome everyone to the Singularity Lab. I'm jacked up today. We've got the one and only AVI LOEB joining us. He'll be here in just a few moments, so we'll welcome him here very soon. Say hello to my co-host as well, Kristen Mataluni. Hello, Kristen. How are you today?
I'm here to bother you.
You're here to bother me. That's fantastic. There's no better thing you can do during a live stream than bothering the one you love. That's fantastic. So we had a great show yesterday with one of the board members for this very project, the Galileo project, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And for those of you who don't know, the Galileo project is being led by AVI LOEB. It's also got an extraordinary board of directors. We had Paul Davies on yesterday, who is one of the board members, and it's got an extraordinary group of people. They've already raised almost $2 million, and their goal is to 10x that. So I'm super excited to be able to kind of share this with you. If you guys have questions, if you guys have things that you want to. Are people telling you in the Chatterverse to wave so that you can like?
Well, somebody said hello to me. Somebody said hello to me specifically, so that's why I waved. But we also, I wanted to say hello to Christina Gomez.
And I started waving.
No, yeah. Well, okay. So, well, we also did get a hi, Amy, from April. But that was for someone else in the chat. But we got Tina Tamaluski. Just want to say what's up to our moderators. Her and Christina Gomez are here. So hello, ladies. Thank you for being here. Always big fans. Alien Girl's here as well. So we got all the ladies in this show, man.
It's fantastic.
What's your what are your statistics like? You get a lot of ladies watching this show, Mikey?
It's not as many. It's about 10%. 10% of the folks who follow the show are ladies. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's got to be because of Kristen.
More than mine.
Yeah.
More than mine. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a sausage fest. This topic.
This topic is a bit, yes,
a little bit. Well, when I say this topic, I mean UAP is not science. Science goes all over the board.
Right.
But you know what? Now that we're thinking of it, that might be a good question to ask Avi, because I don't think I saw any ladies on the board members of the Galileo project. Now that I'm thinking of it.
That's a great question. Speaking of ladies, we got Christina Gomez in the house with a $5 super chat. Jimmy Church and I just wrapped on Mysteries with a History and Push Love over here. Love this channel. Thank you so much, Christina. And if you guys haven't subscribed to Christina's channel, make sure you do that because it is absolutely fantastic. And I'm dying.
Is that the second show she's done with Jimmy Church?
I believe so. I think
in like less than 3 weeks.
And she she
just went on his show. Woo! It's a good combo here. I love it.
Yeah, she's killing it over there.
Yeah.
And then so you guys know, if you have questions specifically for Avi, feel free to put them in. We've got a ton of questions for him. We're really excited to kind of figure out which direction the Galileo project is going to be going. Again, we talked to Paul Davies yesterday. Make sure you go check out the Unidentified Celebrity Review. And you can watch that show as well. But don't do it right now because we got Avi joining us here in just a second.
Well, how much you want to bet that he's running late because he's doing another interview?
Oh, I guarantee it.
Guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
There it is.
He is doing. Avi
he just popped in. Okay.
All day.
Did you do a poll yet?
No, but we've got Avi in the house.
Okay. Well, maybe we should do the poll before we pop him in, and it should be what are the bets? Like, what are the odds? Right? I'm going to say he was definitely doing another interview because this guy's just he's a machine. He's an absolute machine.
What do you guys think? Was Avi finishing up another interview? Say yes in the chat.
Was he eating lunch? was he negotiating another couple $100 million maybe, or not another maybe the initial $100 million investment,
right.
Or C, was he on another interview and just given his time because that's what the man does? Let's ask him. He's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the one, the only, Avi Loeb. Avi, welcome.
Nice to see you all.
It's great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Avi, can you tell us who was right? Were you negotiating? Were you 10xing the Galileo project's funds?
Were you eating lunch?
And
if so, what was it?
No, it's none of the above. I was actually, over the past day, I had close to 1,000 emails that I had to respond to. And I should say there were hundreds of people volunteering to help with the project that we will discuss, as well as people willing to contribute funds. And that's quite exceptional. But before we get to that, can I ask you how to arrange for my camera, because I'm trying to find it.
Are you looking to move the camera, or you're looking to make sure you have the right camera in use?
The right camera, yes.
Okay, so at the bottom, you can click where it says cam/mic. If you click that button on the screen, can you see that right below our faces on the bottom there of the screen? It says cam and mic. Do you see that?
No. Oh, yeah. Now I see it. Okay.
If you click that and then just go to camera, you should be able to choose the camera you want to use.
Excellent. Yep. Let me see.
I think you do
now
have
we
the right one.
Perfect.
Oh, wow. Okay, way better. Way better.
So that was a demonstration of how a high-resolution image is so much better than a fuzzy image.
Indeed.
I was unidentified until we used the new camera.
Well, also, it's a pretty fun example of, hey, we just kind of showed a Harvard scientist how to do something. So that's always kind of fun too.
Even more impressive because I'm a theorist, and nevertheless I appreciate instruments. And the amazing thing, is I subscribe to whatever the evidence tells us, and by profession I'm being paid for coming up with ideas, but I do think that evidence and data rule the day, so to speak, and we should be guided. It's a learning experience, we should be guided by evidence, and that's why I'm intrigued when the government comes forward and reports about objects they cannot identify, and that's their job. The intelligence agencies are being paid to figure out what is in our sky because it might be related to espionage, a national security threat, and when they come forward to Congress and say, we don't really know what these objects are, and some of them appear to be real, I'm intrigued as a scientist. I say, okay, that's a puzzle. Let's figure it out.
Fantastic. And so you and I spoke about this last time you were on the show, and I think it's so powerful. And you said, I am willing to lead this search for UAP phenomenon outside of the government. I've had people come to me interested in funding this project. Avi, I know you can't share the names of your donors, obviously, and we don't expect you to, but I'm just curious how quickly this came about for you, and what does the timeline look like for actually getting this underway? Obviously, there's a lot of administrative work to be done. Can you give us an idea of what that looks like?
Well, first of all, I should say they're not secret, the donors, and they're
not.
You can find them on the Philanthropic Advisory Board that we have on our website of the Galileo project. And it all started back when the UAP report by the Pentagon to Congress came out, and the head of NASA, Bill Nelson, appeared on CNN and said, I would very much like scientists to look into that. It's quite intriguing. And I very much support his view because, you wouldn't ask a plumber to bake you a cake. So by the same token, you wouldn't ask policymakers, politicians, or national security advisors, or military personnel to tell us what they see in the sky. That's the job of scientists, of astronomers. That's what we do for a living, figuring out what objects are on the sky. And therefore, once it looks intriguing enough, the scientific community needs to be engaged in it. It should go away from the talking points of politicians and military personnel into the realm of science. So when I saw Bill Nelson saying that, I said, I pretty much agree with that 100%. And I contacted people under him and said, here I am, willing to serve and make your boss happy. They didn't get back to me. And so fortunately, around the same time, a couple of weeks ago, the administrator of the astronomy department at Harvard sends me an email and says, you have a new research fund. And I say, what do you mean I have a new research fund? That never happens. Could you please tell me who gave me the money? And she said, well, I don't know. I was not told. And I said, okay, well, I have an elementary request. I want to thank the person who gave me the money. I've never met that person. I don't know who that person is. And of course, it went to the development office at Harvard, and they provided me with the details of that person. And then a few days later, someone shows up at my home in the porch. We meet on the porch, and that person is the multi-billionaire that read my book and had questions about it. And I answered the questions, and we discussed science. And eventually, that person was so excited by the vision that I described that he decided to contribute. And so and within two weeks or so, without any fundraising on my side, I ended up with $1.755 million in my research fund. And of course, no strings attached. And I said, okay, well, that's enough money to actually fund a research program that will address the nature of objects that we couldn't identify, either close to Earth or interstellar objects like Oumuamua. That's a passion of mine. I'm a theorist, but nevertheless, I do think we need more evidence to be sure about the nature of these objects. And so I assembled a team of exceptional scientists, mostly astronomers, that would construct the instruments. And I can describe to you in a few words what we are planning to do, but we are going through a lot of deliberations. Just over the past few days, we had, I would say, hundreds of emails exchanged within the team about the details of what we might want to do. And we're taking it very seriously. We are hitting the ground running, and I have the money to purchase the instruments. So we're not talking theory here. We're not taking any money from other research programs. All I can say is the general public is excited about this vision. The general public is very interested in this question. And I'm happy to say that a group of scientists decided to address it in the standard scientific approach. And that means that previously the data, even the best data that was conveyed to the public was based on jittery camera images in fighter jets. These were not instruments designed for a careful scientific analysis. What you want to have is full control over your scientific instrument. So what you want to do is take a telescope, and just to give you an example, suppose you want to resolve an object the size of a person at a distance of a mile, okay? And by resolve, I mean get a megapixel image of that person. So megapixel means that you can resolve the head of a pin on that object. And that would allow you to tell the difference between a label saying made in country X here on Earth and a label saying made on planet Y somewhere else. So suppose you want that. What kind of a telescope do you need? Turns out 1 meter. And 1 meter telescope, by the way, is offered for sale on the internet. I found it. You just click add to the bag and you get it. Apparently, there are people that add it to their bag, even though it's $500,000. But we might not need such a big telescope at first because we might not need to resolve such fine structure on the objects that we find. And so the idea is to have a telescope. Each system of telescopes will have at least 1 or 2 telescopes, and then the data will be fed into a camera that will get the image, and then will eventually get to a computer system that filters out the objects of interest. And I should say there would be a huge flood of data. If you take a video of the sky all the time, then the amount of data cannot be stored. It's just too much. And we will just rely on the processing through the computer software, artificial intelligence perhaps, or something else, that will allow us to focus on targets that are of interest to us and then track them and figure out what they are. And then that's one telescope system. And of course, we want many of those. So for the amount of money we have already, we can probably have tens of such systems, somewhere between 10 and 50. If we wanted to have a much more rigorous and exhaustive study of the sky, we would like 10 times more money, okay? And, if there is a wealthy individual that thinks that that's worthwhile, I'll be very glad to speak with that person.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you
but
this,
what if
Avi.
they're trying to reach you on Twitter?
Ooh.
No, that would not work.
So can we not convince you to join Twitter, Avi? That's not going to happen?
No, even for $1 billion, you won't convince me.
What? Wait a second. Hold on a second. Wait a second. So a philanthropist comes up to you and says, Avi Loeb, I'm in for $1 billion, but I need you to get a Twitter account because we need to be there on a public level of some sort where people can at you.
Okay.
You're going to say no to that?
I would say I have to ask my wife because I promised, when I married her, I promised not to have any social media accounts. And I'm very happy to say that I don't because it distracts you if you pay attention to the audience instead of to the ball. I told my team that we should focus on the ball, not keep our eyes on the ball, not on the audience, because I get a huge volume of emails of people extremely excited, enthusiastic, saying great things. At the same time, I'm sure there are other people not sending it to me, but that are saying bad things behind our back. And, I don't really care what they say because we will just do it. So just like, this statement, let's just do it. And I should say, I had an interview with King Princess. I don't know if you know her. She's a musician, very young. And she interviewed me a few weeks ago, and I explained to her this logic, and she said, "Yeah, we don't need the government. Let's just do it."
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me. I've actually got a couple questions here. So number one is you talk about the 1 meter telescope, and you probably got enough money to do maybe 10 or 15 of those systems. Can you kind of clarify like how what piece of sky do you focus that on? Where do you put the telescopes? What are the sort of deliberations you guys are talking about in regard to how you identify the right places to be aiming these telescopes?
This is an excellent question, and in fact, we're discussing it. So aside, after choosing the proper instruments, the next question is where to put them. And in terms of visibility, if you want to look far into the horizon, the best places are mountaintops. That's where astronomers put their instruments, their telescopes. And by the way, I would regard it as a part of astronomy because we are using data from telescopes. And the only difference is that astronomers usually look at very distant sources, very distant objects, and they move very little on the sky. Whereas if you look at nearby objects, they move much faster. And if a bird flies above a telescope, conventional telescope, the astronomers ignore it. They don't really care about it. It's a distraction. But for us, we want to focus on anything coming close. And so mountaintops have the best quality of the atmosphere because there is the air is less dense, and the main effect is blurring by atmospheric turbulence of the images that you're looking at, and it's better to be in an environment that is less dense, and that's why telescopes are often high up. And the other thing is, from a mountaintop you can see far into the horizon, and so that's the best site. But of course we might consider other places depending on on the kind of environments we want to probe, because there were some claims that UAP concentrate around military facilities, around other locations. My suspicion is it's a selection effect. It could be that we patrol those areas much more often. And so that's one thing that we have to decide, where to put these systems. And one thing I should clarify, I don't want to look at classified data whatsoever. I was approached, and I don't really want to look at government-owned data, because then there would be some restrictions on what I can say, and there would always be the suspicion by the government that I'm using the knowledge, subconsciously even, to tailor the kind of observations that we do with an open data set. So the definition of the Galileo project is to have open data that anyone can look at, and a transparent analysis that anyone would understand what we're doing. And it will be open data such that anyone else that wants to do a different analysis can do it. And it's sort of like a kid. A kid often is being told by adults what the truth is, but the kid says, I don't care about what you tell me. I want to figure it out myself. So,
Are you that kid, Avi?
Yeah, I'm that kid. And, science is this luxury, this privilege of being able to maintain your childhood curiosity. So I don't really want to listen to stories from the past because they were taken by instruments that were not optimized. Eyewitness testimonies are not always reliable. The government has a lot of data that it cannot release because the sensors that obtained this data are classified. So I don't want to get into that. Most of the data taken decades ago is not of the same quality that we can get today. Let's just look into the future. And, science is about reproducible results. So the idea is, if something is out there, we should be able to see it. And even if it turns out not to be of extraterrestrial origin, if it turns out to be some atmospheric phenomena that we've never anticipated, it will be quite interesting. We will discover something new. So I see it as a win-win proposition. I just don't see how anyone can say anything against such a project, collecting data, trying to figure out and clear up the fog, figure out what these unidentified aerial phenomena are all about.
I think one of the arguments I hear for collecting data from classified information within the government is specific to the idea that there is really good data already, and we're ignoring the data that we already have. And you made a very clear point that you don't want to be influenced, or you don't want there to be any sort of idea that you're, potentially, releasing censored data. And so can you kind of can you dig a little deeper? Because even Christopher Mellon in his most recent post, and he actually mentions you, Avi, he says that you were encouraged or encouraging of scientists to get classified data if they can, but you don't want to do that with this project. Can you just clearly tell us why?
Well, I do think that scientists could help the government figure out what the reports of the past are about, but I don't want to do it myself, because otherwise, I will not be free if I were to engage with government data. And frankly, I want to be free. I want to be able to look at new data in an unbiased way, in a way that is not restricted by the fact that I saw classified data. And moreover, I want to collect better data, open data, and analyze it in the best possible way. So, I assembled a team of exceptional scientists that, in my view, could do a much better job than was done before. And you have to understand, I very much admire those military people that report about the unusual things, but they lack the instruments that modern science can provide, and they also lack the expertise that scientists have. And astronomers know how to do it right, and how to control the instruments in a way that will give us reliable results. And let's just figure it out. To me, it sounds just like any other research project. And moreover, it's an opportunity to find something new. So why not just go ahead and do it just like we do any other scientific project?
Right.
At the end of the day, I think we will be smarter no matter what. And if we do find evidence for an extraterrestrial origin of at least one object, I should clear up that most of the past reports could have mundane explanations, but it's not a question about most of them. It's sufficient to have one object of an extraterrestrial origin for it to have major impact on humanity.
Right.
And so we're just engaged in a fishing expedition, right? And we throw our hook into the ocean. We don't know what fish we will get. Right. It's a fishing expedition. But there is one type of fish that, if we find it, would be extremely important. And we don't know if we will get it, but let's give it a try, rather than say we know the answer in advance. Because that's exactly what the philosophers did in the days of Galileo. They said, we know that the sun moves around the earth. We don't need to look through your telescope. And by that, they maintained their ignorance. They put Galileo in house arrest. Today, they would cancel him on social media. And that maintained their ignorance. It didn't accomplish anything. The earth continued to move around the sun. So if we close the curtains on our windows, we might argue that we have no neighbors, that we are the smartest, but it wouldn't get rid of our neighbors.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Lou.
Well, there was a $5 super chat question. Then I also had a question myself. Now, this must be in reference to something that maybe you said in a different interview, and I don't know exactly what they're referring to, but they asked it very early on, and I want to just make sure we didn't lose it. But since we're talking about hardware, I think this is a hardware question. Why 8-inch Dobsonians, and where does he plan to put them? I don't know what a Dobsonian
is. We talked about
is.
Location, but what is a Dobsonian?
Yeah.
Well, the size of the telescope should be of order or bigger than the size of a characteristic, what we call turbulent eddy. Or the atmosphere has regions of turbulence where the index of refraction, or the density of air, changes from point to point, and these regions are roughly tens of centimeters, roughly 10 centimeters or a few tenths of centimeters, or of order 10 inches or so. It depends on location. It depends on the elevation, the temperature, and so forth. But that's the rough order of magnitude. So, and these patches of air blur the image, because each of them you can think of as a small lens, and it sort of deflects the light and spreads it, and in ways that you cannot control. So, if you take a telescope smaller than that, you're losing. But if you take a telescope bigger than that, you are limited by those patches of air that blur the image, and there is not much gain in the resolution that you achieve. unless you use some sophisticated methods to improve your ability to resolve an object. So that sets the scale of a telescope to be of order 10 inches or so, because it's the scale of the turbulence, the patches of air that affect your vision, and you can buy such a telescope for thousands of dollars in principle, and of course we need also instruments that will accompany it, including the camera, including the computer systems, and so there is a lot of other expense associated with each system. Yeah.
So then it would be kind of difficult for just an average person to buy this kind of equipment and add to the data then.
No. The equipment can be bought off the shelf, but we need the instrumentalists, which which are astronomers in our team, in order to assemble them in the right way and to achieve the specifications. That requires some testing and some skills that not anyone can do. And that's why we have scientists in the team that, in principle, these components that I mentioned are available. You can buy them.
Right. No, you made it sound like you could go to Amazon and buy it right now. So, like, if I wanted to contribute and help the Galileo project, let's say I don't know how to break down the footage, but can I take the footage and send it to you, and then you guys can filter it out or go through it or add the scientific process to it? In other words, will it be open source? Will it be available for everyone to sort of help if they can, that is?
Yeah, so we hope that there will be a phase of the project where we can rely on citizen science and where we can get the help of people. Also, in terms of analyzing the huge amount of data that we get, that can be done on many computers, not only the ones that we own. But at this phase, we are in the early phase where we have to design our own systems. And right now, the best help that the public can provide is in terms of funding, because the number of systems that we can afford depends on how much funding we get.
Right. I have a question for you, Avi. So in regards to the team that you've built, it seems to consist mostly of astronomers. Have you considered aerospace engineers, atmospheric scientists, folks with diversified skill sets, or is this just kind of the beginning research group? What does that look like in its evolution?
This is the beginning research group, and I over the past day I had a lot of volunteers that suggested to help us. And many of which I added as affiliates, and they have a diverse skill set. But as we move along, and if we need people with specific skills that we don't have, we will definitely add them. You see, this project is about accomplishing a goal. And the goal is to figure out the nature of these unidentified aerial phenomena or interstellar objects like Oumuamua, and in particular, check whether they are extraterrestrial in origin technological equipment. And if not, of course, we will be very happy because we cleared up a mystery, and we cleared up the fog, and we would find something new. For example, if Oumuamua turns out to be an object like it, turns out to be a hydrogen iceberg, chunk of frozen hydrogen, something that was not seen before, that's something new. It means that there are nurseries making up such objects in greater abundance than rocks that we find in the solar system. And we will learn something that we haven't expected. We've never seen any chunk of frozen hydrogen floating in space. If we end up finding that UAP, these unidentified aerial phenomena, are some exotic atmospheric effect that was never anticipated, we learn something new. And that's the nature of science. Now, you see what, for example, searches for dark matter. We don't know what most of the matter in the universe is. We are searching for it. And people search for specific types of particles. They didn't find them. But that's not considered a failure because we eliminated possibilities.
Right. Avi, you're an astronomer. One of the I am on social media, so I get to hear all the crap. One of the things that I heard people were complaining about was saying, well, it's what Avi's probably doing is just trying to get money to invest in telescopes so he can do his astronomy thing and try to figure out what Oumuamua is, not what UAPs are. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's not true. If you look at what we stated in the definition of the project, I mean, we do have several goals, one of which would be to analyze data coming from the Vera Rubin Observatory in a couple of years and identify interstellar objects like Oumuamua, and perhaps collaborating with SpaceX or some other entity to design a space mission that will send a camera that will intercept the trajectory of such an object and get a close-up photograph, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And in my case, a picture is worth 66,000 words, the number of words in my book. And so I really want to get a photograph. It's not a philosophical question, you see. There was an article in Nature Astronomy magazine by a philosopher trying to argue why Oumuamua must have been a natural object. And I say, didn't we learn something since the days of Galileo? I mean, we just need a photograph. We don't need logical arguments about one way or another.
Let me ask you this. It obviously in science, in the scientific method, we begin with a hypothesis, and then we test that hypothesis. It's obviously difficult in this situation because do you begin with the hypothesis of the Fermi paradox, which is where are all the extraterrestrial civilizations? They should be surrounding us. Do you start with that hypothesis and work from there, or do you start with the hypothesis that we've never captured one, so to speak? So they're probably not here. So we need to put that on the bottom of our list. How do you start?
Well, here it's not driven by hypothesis. This particular project, it's driven by some intriguing hints that maybe we see objects that we don't fully understand, and let's figure out their nature. So it's completely driven by anomalies. The fact that the UAP are not fully understood, and Oumuamua-like objects are not fully understood. In both cases, the scientific mainstream would agree that we don't know whether Oumuamua is a nitrogen iceberg, a hydrogen iceberg, a dust bunny, or an artificial object. These are all possibilities. In the case of UAP, are these atmospheric phenomena? Are these objects belonging to other nations? In which case it will be a matter of national security, that our government is unable to identify them and also unable to figure out what technologies are being used. So, there are many questions about these objects, and I'm saying, okay, it's intriguing. It's like a detective story. We don't know who the person responsible for what we see in the crime scene is. So a detective starts to collect evidence and doesn't rule out any conjecture, any possibility ahead of time. That's what, right? That's the work of a detective. So the way I see it is, we arrived at the crime scene. We are trying to figure out what happened. Okay, and the way to do that is by collecting evidence without prejudice, and that's what drives me. I don't, it's like a fishing expedition. When you throw the hook, you don't know what you will get, and let's just see what our hook gets.
Do you think there are any possibilities, like, for example, of objects that may not be able to be captured by traditional telescopes? I mean, should we be looking for heat signatures, things like that? Is this something that you've considered?
Well, so there were some people suggesting perhaps there is new physics associated with the UAP. We are starting our search assuming standard physics applies, because it was tested in so many experiments. And let's put it this way: if in addition to finding an extraterrestrial object, we end up finding a deviation from the standard model of physics, that would be even bigger, because we don't find any such hint at the moment. But if we do, then it applies to the entire universe. It's something that we missed about reality, in addition to missing that we are not the smartest kid on the block. These are two separate things. And I would say, let's start with a modest ambition, just to figure out what these objects are based on standard physics. That's the work of a scientist, And if we cannot explain what we see, then we start contemplating new physics. That is done very often in astronomy, by the way. We see some matter, then we see much more gravity than can be assigned to that matter that we see, and we say, there must be some dark matter. If we don't find the dark matter, maybe the force of gravity is modified. That's new physics. So it's always possible that new physics is lurking in those anomalies that we find, but we have to rule out first any other explanation.
Okay, so you keep using this fishing analogy, and I have to come to it because I'm a bit of a fisherman. We have a fishing sponsor for my show, so I'd be remiss if I didn't say this.
Okay.
The thing with fishing is, if you're a good fisherman and you know how to use the baits, you know where to go, you know what depth the fish are at, you could target what kind of fish you're trying to get. So when it comes into regards to government information, I think we might be missing, and I'm pushing back here. I think we might be missing a little bit of some good data. The thing with it is that these are targeted fish on some of the best instruments that on the planet that exist. So why, as a scientists, would we ignore that data, even though it's limited, even though it's got some contractual things to it? It's still data. And if you caught data that matches that data set, wouldn't that be a good thing? Like, wouldn't that help?
In an ideal world, it would be a great thing. You want to use all the data that was assembled so far and add to it the new data. But if you are a realist, you would recognize that once you look at classified data, you're not allowed to speak about it, right? And you're not allowed to use it for another purpose. And to me, that will restrict my ability to handle new data in a free way. I want to be free. I don't want to be restricted.
Well, couldn't you collect the public data then and say no to the classified data? Because the public data is still pretty decent.
It's not to the quality of a scientific inquiry, because we don't know exactly what the camera was doing when it was taking these images. And right. I want to be completely in control of my experimental setup, and right. Now the issue is really, if these are rare events, we will have to wait for a while. We'll have to cover a large chunk of the sky. That requires more funding. That's the key question. But science is all about reproducibility of results. The fact that you can't rely on a one-time miracle to make a scientific statement. You have to see the same phenomenon occurring again and again when you replicate circumstances. And that's what we hope to get. We hope to get much better data, scientific data, open data, on the same kind of events that were reported about.
If we were able to get some data, if some of this classified data became declassified, you're basically saying it's probably not going to be included in the data sets. But could it lead to a new fishing hole, or can it lead to a baiting your hook with a different piece of tackle based on something you learned?
Definitely, and we had such discussions within the team based on the public information. I completely agree that. What shapes the way that you, address the opportunities to find more of the same, right? So if you know that a certain type of fish are in particular locations, you will go to those locations. And so definitely, I completely agree with that.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because you were saying something along the lines of you don't send a plumber to figure out complex mathematical space equations. What was the analogy? Because I completely messed that up. What was the analogy, sir?
Well, it was just that you won't ask a plumber to bake you a cake. I mean, I might.
There you go. Okay.
I might ask a plumber a mathematical question. Depends what the education level of the plumber is.
Fair. That's fair. Okay. So good. Plumbers don't make cakes. But here's the thing, right? So 150 years ago, we were using candles to light our rooms, right? And it wasn't a candle maker that discovered the light bulb. It was someone out of the fringe of thinking that candles are the only way to light rooms. Someone who was thinking outside of the box. And I guess my question is there any room for fringe thinking and fringe ideas to come into this discussion? Because those sometimes bring some discoveries that we weren't expecting.
Definitely. And I can give you an even better example that, when we visited Mexico, we went to Chichen Itza with my family, and the tour guide was bragging about the fact that they had the Mayan culture had an amazing astronomy tradition. And in fact, astronomers were held in very high regard. They were called astronomer priests. They had the highest status in society. And I was wondering about that. I started reading, and I realized that, the reason they had a high societal status is because the Mayan culture believed that you can forecast the outcome, let's say, of wars or political moves based on the position of objects in the sky, on planets or stars, which we nowadays call astrology. So they just believed that and collected exquisite data, that unprecedented over hundreds of years, maybe thousands. And so if there was a Mayan astronomer thinking outside the box, that person could have, for example, come up with the laws of gravity that we now use, right, based on the motion of planets. But the fact that the culture was trying to use what they see on the sky for a very specific purpose defined by politicians to forecast the outcome of wars, when to go out to a war, that prevented them, that blinded them from noticing the regularity in the patterns that can be used to infer the laws of physics, for example. So you are very much right. And there is another example that, when I was a postdoc, a young scholar, I remember seeing in the Astrophysical Journal, there were images of clusters of galaxies that show giant arcs of light. And those were ignored. Nobody paid attention until in the middle 1980s. It was the subject of gravitational lensing became very popular. And then these arcs were interpreted as the distortion in the images of background galaxies behind those clusters. And so that was always there in the images, but recognized only after people were looking for that gravitational lensing effect. And so that just illustrates that if you're not open-minded, if you're not allowing yourself to think outside the box, you miss the correct interpretation of data, even if you have it in front of you. I agree with you. And so that's why the data will be open, so people from different directions can analyze it and interpret it the way they want.
So when you say the data open, this is something that excites me, and I've I've been really excited about you taking on this project and for being so transparent with it. So can you tell us how the data is going to be shared? Will it be something that you've mentioned before? And I think it was in our very first interview. You said we should have transparency in science. We shouldn't wait until we get the result we want before publishing our science. Is that something you're going to be doing in this project? Are you going to be sharing raw data, or how is that going to be expressed through the project?
Well, the data will be shared on a platform that anyone can access. And we haven't yet come up with the details, because at first we have to get the instruments, then, test them, put them in the right locations, and start taking the data, and then we get to that point. But the idea would be that it's data that anyone can access, and if you wanted to go through the data and look for something that we haven't thought about, you are welcome to do that. But of course, we can't store, as I said before, we can't store all the data. It's just too much, taking video of the sky all the time. And we will have to use some software to select what kind of objects or parts of the data we want to keep.
This is what I think a lot of people don't understand, because we talk about we have satellites in the sky looking down on Earth. We have satellites looking out. We have telescopes looking out. We have cameras going in every direction. What people don't realize is storage of all this data is incredible. The amount of storage required for that video content, it's incredible.
Just put it in the cloud.
Just put it in the cloud. Well, but here's my beef with it, man.
Okay. What?
We can record every phone call, video call, email, any transmission from every single American in and out of the country, sometimes in some cases around the world, it's there. The capability is there.
Well,
to
but that's
save these
very
things.
limited information, especially when you record the politicians. There is not much information there.
Well, yeah, okay. I see where you're going. Avi. There's another slam dunk from Avi Loeb on this show. I love it. Well, damn it, man, because now that kind of ruins the question we wanted to ask you at the end of the show. I don't know if he's going to be down with it, Michael, but we'll see. We'll save it for the end.
We'll see.
So here's a question, and this is something that I am also guilty of. So this is not a gotcha question, and Kristen, please jump in here, okay? And the reason why I say your name is because, like, this topic is very much a male-centric boys' room kind of thing only. And
why do you say that?
Well, I just feel like there's a lot of men in here. There's a lot of men in the room, and so I'm curious. And then I was looking at the board, and correct me if I'm wrong, but were there any ladies in the Galileo project?
Oh, there are lots of in the research team. We have a third. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I was wrong, and that's why I was just curious, because this is because I sometimes have a hard time finding some wonderful ladies that could come on the show. This is more of a show.
Who care about UFOs?
Who care about UFOs? Who care about this topic? Yeah,
that's not true.
This is okay.
That's
great.
Most valuable team members are women, and I don't see any gender, but I don't think it has. But maybe we can hear from Christine.
Yeah, really, that's what I wanted. I wanted to hear from Christine.
If there's a spacesuit to fit all of us, then I think it works out okay. Yeah. But NASA's not gonna.
Michael,
oh right, NASA. She's talking about. Okay, yes.
I'll be right back.
What was the
last explorative trip they did? There were 2 women who were supposed to go out, but there was only 1 female spacesuit.
Right.
So yeah.
Right, and they also and classically in NASA they also had no idea how many tampons to pack for the ladies.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, I should say one thing about the latest news we had on space travel, space tourism, because a lot of it was driven by trying to show off, and to me that's exactly the opposite of what it should be about. Going to space should be about improving our sense of modesty, because we should be able to recognize that space is so vast, we are so small, that there is so much out there, and we are just a small component of it, and there might be many other actors in this play and we are not the smartest or the most important ones. That's what space is about. It's supposed to show us that we should be modest. But instead, people just go a little bit above the surface of Earth, let's say 50 kilometers. That's really nothing if you look at it from a distance. Right. And they brag about it. Like, what's the big deal? That to me is a distortion of what space is about.
That's true. I agree.
Absolutely. Avi, we've got a question here. When will Harvard formally admit that a lot of these craft that Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo have talked about are non-human origin?
Well, it should all be guided by evidence. You see, the way that an intelligent culture is defined is it follows the guidelines of science, meaning cooperation and sharing of evidence-based knowledge. That's what science is about. And what I mean by that is we very often tend to think we know the answer in advance. And, adults pretend very often that they know much more than they actually know. Kids don't do that. They're not expected to know more. And that's why I think science allows us to continue behaving like kids. We should not pretend that we know more than we actually know. And when we see something unusual, maybe it's nature's way of telling us that we are missing something. So, when Oumuamua was discovered, I remember a colleague of mine coming out of an auditorium and saying, Oumuamua is so weird, I wish it never existed. And to me, it's basically a completely opposite experience, where when I hear about Oumuamua or I hear about UAP, I say, okay, here is something we don't fully understand. That's very exciting. That's what science is about. And by the way, if the public cares about it, we can get it funded. We can get much more money into science. And I just demonstrated that personally. And we can attract many more young people to science. And again, I also demonstrated that over the last day when the news broke up out about the Galileo project, a lot of young people approached me via email and wanted to help us. And so it's a win-win proposition. We can attract more people into science. We can get science better funded. And we will learn something new by collecting more data. I just don't understand how anyone can say negative things about this.
About more data.
Right.
Only someone that is not willing to pay attention to data.
Right.
And there are lots, and unfortunate, that you wouldn't expect from scientists, right? And
right.
Yeah.
Right. What about this question from Charles? Since the UAP often becomes USO or vice versa, will Project Galileo do any monitoring of the sea as well?
That's definitely a possibility, and we are considering that possibility. Yeah, but as I said before, if we had just very few sites that we can put telescopes on, I would much rather have a mountaintop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's a pressure and all sorts of things. Lots of different
there is less,
you need in the ocean.
there is less blurring by the atmosphere because the atmosphere is more dilute, and also it's a high elevation, so you can see farther away.
Right.
So your real concern is like storm activity, right? When you're going up high.
Well, yeah, either that. I mean, there is turbulence everywhere, but if the density of air is lower on a mountaintop, then the index of refraction, the deflection of light is less effective, and then you can see a greater distance. Images are not being blurred as much as at sea level.
Right. Okay, I've got a question for you. So, and I think we may have hit on this in the past, but I think it's important for us to revisit. Carl Sagan famously said that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Does science really deal with two types of evidence? Shouldn't claims simply require evidence?
Yeah, that's what I say in my book, Extraterrestrial. And my point is also people that use this quote from Carl Sagan often do not advocate for funding the search for extraordinary evidence. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're not looking for that evidence. And since you didn't find it, you say, there is no need to look for evidence.
Right.
And it's a very vicious cycle, because I would argue that extraordinary conservatism leads to extraordinary ignorance in that way. Of course, you can break this cycle by getting funded from the private sector, not requiring committees that are dominated by conservative scientists, and by getting evidence. So if I had a high-resolution image of either a UAP or an interstellar object like Oumuamua, and it didn't look like a rock, or it didn't look like an atmospheric phenomena, I don't think anyone would dispute that evidence. So it's not a philosophical question. It's just a matter of getting good enough data. And that's what we are after.
Right. We touched on this earlier, but Charles asks, will you use incidents reported by the government to help in determining location setups for the project, such as Guadalupe Island off the West Coast?
Definitely. That is one thing that we will factor in. And once again, if we have more funding, let's say by a factor of 10, that would allow us to have many more systems deployed in many more locations, which would improve our chance of finding something. So I very much hope that there will be more wealthy individuals that are inspired by this concept and will come forward, and they can reach me by email.
So how do people, you had mentioned previously that you've already raised 1.75 million. You've mentioned that people can reach you by email if we have wealthy benefactors who want to contribute to this. What about folks who have small amount of donations? Are they able to donate or contribute in any way?
So I was approached by half a dozen people that suggested crowdfunding, and we're now looking into the mechanism of doing it together with Harvard University. So it's not, the mechanism is not in place yet, but we're definitely looking into that, because I was approached by a lot of people about that.
That's fantastic. I know we're winding down with our time. I got one more a question here from John. A former head of CIA admitted on YouTube that a plane was paused in midair. Mellon Elizondo admitted craft recorded at 46,000 miles per hour, 90-degree turns. Do you have any thoughts on these thoughts on this?
Well, these are all very intriguing reports. And the one thing that intrigues me the most is that people that had access to the classified data, like former CIA directors, Brennan and Woolsey, and former President Barack Obama, they said it's a serious matter. Some of these objects are definitely real, and I take their word because I trust those people, and that's what intrigues me as a scientist. I want to figure it out by collecting better data. It's possible that the government has it, but I don't know of scientists engaged in the analysis of the government data, and I would like to just do it, rather than waiting for the government to do the right thing. We can do it ourselves. The sky is not classified. We can collect data. We do it as astronomers all the time. And so let's just do it.
Do you have concerns with some of these kind of reports you hear, like the Tic Tac incident with Fravor and some of these other incidents where these objects are moving just at incredible speeds? Do you worry about the equipment that you have being able to capture that?
Well, the question I ask myself is whether these are real objects. You see,
right.
So before I jump to conclusions, I want to get a much better quality data than those. The pilots that reported about these incidents had. I don't say anything about the reliability of what they witnessed. I'm just saying I want to get the data myself and collect it with instruments that are controlled and have much better resolution, much better quality than they had. After all, it's almost 2 decades since they reported. And we now have much better cameras, much better recording devices, and we can use the scientific method to figure out the nature of these things. And let's just figure it out without prejudice, without assuming anything, without claiming that someone didn't really see a real thing. Like many scientists try to debunk some of these. This is not a healthy approach. The right approach is to say, okay, it reached a threshold of being sufficiently intriguing for us to look into it scientifically. And, that kind of a study can be published in scientific journal like any other study.
It's fantastic. Lou, you are muted, just so you know. I know you were trying to say something.
Yeah.
So, Avi, I know we've got to get you out of here. We are, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but we do a sort of a raising of awareness on this subject, not only on our shows, but we also have a call to action day called the Big Phone Home. We've done one. We're going to be doing another one coming up very soon. And we're looking for scientists to come on and talk about this. Are you in?
Definitely.
All right.
Great. Yeah, because we would love to get the Galileo project scientists, everyone involved who would love to come on the show that day. And we're just going to dedicate the day to the scientific discussion of UAPs. Also, the day will be also, just so you know, and I know that you may not be on board with this part of it, but the idea of the Big Phone Home is to encourage citizens to get in touch with their local state representatives. And we're going to be asking for congressional hearings. That is going to be the request of this event. And so, I think it's always a good thing to try and get whatever data we can out of them. I know that may not be on the same page as you, but who knows? We'll see what we get. Well, but I think congressional hearings will be fun.
As long as it's not classified, it's my game as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Avi, my goodness, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for putting the energy, the time, the commitment into this project, because it sure does mean the world to us. And you're doing great work, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having the moxie to do it as well.
Well, it's just the beginning. Wait a year, and if we have some exciting data, I'll be glad to report about it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to hear it.
All right. Avi, have a lovely evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, he's so amazing.
Oh, he's still here.
He's so great. I know. Now we can talk crap about Avi Loeb. Dude, that was killer. That was killer. And I think he answered a lot of sort of the questions that people had, the concerns moreover, because it was here's the thing, right? Is because the thing that people said yesterday, this parallax effect that sort of Paul Davies was talking about yesterday, how the object was mirroring the pilot and how that could have been an optical illusion. Yeah, maybe if it was one plane, but 2 planes saw it. And also a Spy 1 radar system doesn't pick up the parallax effect. But the issue is that we don't have that data. We just have the story. We have people telling us this is what happened, but we don't have the data to back it up. So that's where Avi and Paul Davies are are sort of drawing the line. It's like, listen, we can't have hearsay or a report. We need the scientific data. And that's why they're not really looking to the government, because the government, and we've talked about this millions of times, is not interested in giving away the process. They're just not. And I think he's right. Like, they're not going to be interested in giving us that process. Maybe a few years down the road, we'll get to, little insights of what that process might be.
Right.
But right now, they're just not.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right, Lou. So let's go ahead and reset the room here. Thank you so much for the chatterverse. You guys have been amazing. Thank you for asking your questions for Avi. We really appreciate you being here. Make sure you click the like button, click the subscribe button. Lou and I go live 5 days a week, twice a week here on the Singularity Lab on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and 3 times a week on the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So make sure you follow Lou over there. If you want to support the show, we are a public access channel, so we depend on your donations to keep this ball rolling. So if you wanted to give to the Patreon, all you got to do is click the link in the description below, and you can get started there. And you can also follow the link to follow the Unidentified Celebrity Review. We've got an amazing second hour coming at you guys. We're going to be breaking down what's going on with the Galileo project, among other topics. We've got some great guests joining the panel right now. We've got Rather Be Squidding, who is a UFO enthusiast and researcher. His YouTube channel, Rather Be Squidding, focuses on cutting-edge science, technology, and UAP news. Welcome, Rather. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Great interview.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We really appreciate it. Avi's the man, man. What can we say? We've also got Daniel Miller, who is an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science. His curiosity has now led him to the UAP topic, where he is a political junkie. He focuses on the movement and efforts within the U.S. government and the scientific community. Daniel, how are you?
So good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. And last but finally, not least, head science writer for The Debrief. He's also a fiction writer, for those of you who didn't know. He's got 3 books under his belt, Heirloom Ores, and he's working on a new one that's going to be released. He can tell us when. Welcome, Christopher Plain.
Hey, what's going on, lady, gentlemen? New book, probably February. So
February.
A little bit. Science fiction novel called Titan. It's a standalone novel, and it's mostly action adventure, hard sci-fi.
Real quick, UFO Blueprint asks, how come Luis keeps dodging my question? Listen, I'm not dodging anything. I answer all questions. Okay, just throw it in there again, and I'll answer it. Sorry, I just had
He's
to
got to
leave.
see it. It's kind of hard to see all the comments.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see all the comments. Hey, you want to make sure I see it? Throw a couple bucks with it.
Yeah, right.
I definitely want it. That helps. It helps. They stick out. But yeah, throw it back in there, and we'll answer it for you.
So
Sorry.
I want to table this to the entire room here. I had a couple questions that I threw at Avi that I really wanted the answers to, because I had been seeing a lot of pushback on social media. One of the major questions or concerns was: are we really looking for UAPs, or is this an astronomy funding project that is not really about UAPs? And I think he answered that pretty well. But I'd love to get everyone else's opinion on that. Feel free to jump in.
Well, yeah, there's 3 kind of classes, right? There was the atmosphere, there's 3 goals. There's the atmospheric stuff, and then there's the stuff in Earth's atmosphere, and then there's the interstellar objects. And it seems like maybe you can make that argument for the interstellar objects. That is AVI LOEB's kind of main emphasis, but it really does seem like they have an emphasis on those first 2 categories as well. And there's not a lot of overlap, I don't think, between deep looking astronomy and the goals of the Galileo project. So those criticisms fall flat for me.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean,
you
see their
about you, Daniel?
based on what they do, I guess, but based on their project goals, they're looking at near Earth orbit things and things in our atmosphere. I don't know of any other astronomy project actually doing that. So as long as they follow through with that, those criticisms seem weird to me, because what those criticisms are basically saying is, yeah, you wrote all these goals out of what you're going to do, but we don't believe you. Is that? Right. I mean, I feel like that's basically what they're saying.
Completely different.
There's a portion of the population that thinks that about everything at this point, right?
Right. Yeah, you can't. I mean, there are people that you can't convince of anything. What about you, Chris?
Dude, you're going to open a weed operation with that money, aren't you?
Well, I mean, dude, like, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm thinking about so many things. What was the question again?
Well, I was just curious. I mean, obviously Avi Loeb, he wrote this book, Extraterrestrial. He
Right.
is interested in Oumuamua. He's interested in the potential for interstellar objects that may be of extraterrestrial design. So, and in the past, he's kind of been he was kind of more in the Paul Davies realm. So, for those of you who didn't follow us yesterday at UCR, we talked to Paul Davies, who is on the project as well, who's very much more skeptical than Avi. But I heard older videos of Avi, very skeptical of the UAP issue. And so, he's very much changed his perspective now. And I think people are worried that it's about, about this land grab or this cash grab. I don't think that, but I've heard this a lot, so I was just curious what you all's opinion was on it.
You know what, Mike? Can I jump in here?
Yeah, please.
I think this is a really simple case at the right place at the right time. I think Oumuamua came through. I think the raised attention to UAPs by the military and public and media, and it was just right place at right time. Avi's high profile. I mean, this could really be significant. A guy from Harvard, this is the type of stuff we dreamed about in the 1980s in ufology in the 1990s. Was the DoD report great? We'll wait for that, but waiting for the government information is like a running joke. NASA jumping in, that was pretty exciting. I was talking about that the last time I was on here. I think that's really exciting. But I can tell you this, private people like Avi with his level of credibility start getting involved. And he was just talking about it here earlier. He was talking about, you asked him, are you bringing in aerospace people? Are you bringing in atmospheric scientists? Are you bringing in these other people that aren't just astronomers? Right. And I think I can tell you, all I do is talk to scientists. That's my job. And the rank and file people are excited about projects like this because it's private. It's a guy with a high profile that's very respected, that earned every position he's gotten to. And this could really be significant. If he starts recruiting those sort of people, if this becomes like the big volunteer effort, and this becomes like, this could be the payoff to the work people like you guys are doing.
That would be awesome. I mean, I think he would need the 10 times the budget. He would need at least $100 million.
Yeah,
and I'm curious to know how long it's going to take him to raise that kind of cash. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Here's the thing I want to keep in mind in a situation like this. Lou Elizondo talks about ATIP running after they ran out of money, right? Because you had a bunch of passionate people dedicating their time, effort, and facilities to keep something going that they cared about. Well, I can tell you, in an effort like this, with a guy like Avi at the head, he used the term calling and volunteering their time, volunteering their effort. I think telescopes exist. The type of telescopes he's talking about are all over the planet at privately held universities, at privately held research institutes. I reached out to Jacob Hockmeister at the Blue Marble Space Institute for Science, and he and his partner have been talking about this for years. This is the opportunity to do that, to bring all those resources that are already in place and have those people work together. Spending money is great. Avi's in the education world. So the idea is I get a grant, I spend it, I buy stuff. Right. But I can tell you that in the private sector, instead of going to VCs for money, what people do is they go, who has what I need already? Avi's made a good point. You don't want that government classified information because it just taints everything. And it could even put him in a situation where he finds something on his own effort and they go, oh, that kind of overlap with what we told you, so you can't use that. It's an intellectual property issue. It's why I can't pitch scripts to every TV show, because they go, oh, if we read it and there's a great idea in there and we already had it in another script, you're going to charge us for it because we read your script. Right. So I think that's the situation we're in here. I think $100 million is great. I think if he could get that money, put all those telescopes, he could definitely do it. I think he will find, if he's reaching out to people, rank and file astrobiologists, scientists, atmospheric people, they'll jump in and help where they can. And I think he'll find a lot of this can be done through a common effort.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that he's going to find the money. I think he's going to find the money. I mean, I really do, because you've got a lot of people who are interested in this, and you got to think about how many young people that are millionaires now. I mean, back in the '60s when the Condon report came out, there weren't Bitcoin millionaires living in Costa Rica. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for him to really get a lot of funding, and I think that I'm really excited to see what happens, and I think he'll get it.
Okay, so I got the question from UFO Blueprint, and it said, why congressional hearings? You have no Edward Snowden, you have NDA people is all. Explain the point to me. Set up for a third phone home. Am I missing something? No, you're not missing anything. Okay, so he also said this: congressional hearings, we had those at max levels with the NSA. We know they lied on spying on U.S. citizens. I'd like you to request your FOIPA file to send them back. They cannot answer that, basically. So here's the thing, man. If we get them lying publicly on camera and on oath, that's different than some secret NSA meeting. Like, it's completely different. Not only that, the American people now get to a peek behind the curtain. And it's done on C-SPAN, CNN, Fox News, ABC. It's something that'll be talked about on major, major platforms for weeks, if it's good, and maybe longer. That's why we're doing it. Like, what's the deal, Blueprint? You don't want in on this? I mean, look, it's like trying to argue the point of not destroying the planet. Some people believe that our pollution causes global warming. Some people don't. Somewhere in the middle there, isn't it just the right thing to do? To not litter, to not, poison our water, to not overfish our planet? Like, those are just good, honorable things to follow. So what's the problem here? Like, who cares who's right or who's wrong? Let's get these people on public record. Let's get them on the record. Let's get if they're lying, now there's consequences.
Right. And I have a stupid comparison to make as well. So remember back in was it the 90s that there were congressional hearings about the use of steroids in baseball? Do you guys remember that?
Oh, that was, yeah.
Right. And how ridiculous we all thought that was. But one thing happened because of that. It stuck in people's minds. Nobody forgot about that. And it wasn't because it was a smart use of the Senate's time. It was because the reality was people remembered it. And I think that's what this is about for me. And that's why I support the Big Phone Home too, specifically because if we can push for congressional hearings, if we can get this in front of Congress, if we can get this in front of the people in this country who wield the power, and we can get it televised and we can get it broadcast, it's going to stick in people's minds. And I think when you talk about changing paradigms, when you talk about moving the public consciousness, this is a huge part of that puzzle, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Well, according to Blueprint, he says, was no charges to anyone, including military, from NSA hearings. And then he also said, get Jazz in here.
Well, yeah, I can see the argument. It does seem like we're kind of banging our heads against the wall. We have had congressional hearings, but it is a very different political climate. It's a very different social climate. Like, things have definitely changed. And I think that, we see like the scientific community now taking these seriously. I think if we press, we have to keep on pressing. And even if we don't think it's going to be successful, we got to try.
Here's the thing, man. Anything that the public has ever wanted from its government, whether it be public roads, whether it be civil rights, whether it be women's rights, whether it be the access to clean water, all of these things have to be fought for. And sometimes you lose battles to win the war. Yep. And that's what this is. Like, we have to be vigilant. That's why we're doing the Big Phone Home, depending on what information comes out. The reason why we're doing it now, and you know what, screw it, I'll just give you the dates. We're doing it Labor Day weekend. We're doing it for 3 straight days. 3 straight days we're going to call Congress and encourage people to do it. And we're going to have the conversation because it's important. If you really, 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 really want this information, you have to look in the mirror and you have to work for it. You have to ask for it. And yes, sometimes the data that we get is not going to be complete, but who gives a shit? It's more data. It's more data, and more data is more data is more data is more data. And so we can't, even whether it comes from Jeremy Corbell, whether it comes from Stephen Greer, whether it comes from, I don't care who, it's more data. We can look at it, we could scrutinize it, we could throw it out with the with the other crap, or we could put it into the file of, hey, this is some pretty good stuff, it's compelling, it's worthy of talking about. But the only way we get there, you guys, is if we ask for it, we demand it, we bother them every 6 months and say, hey, what's the deal with the UAP information? Where's the next report? When is it coming? When are we getting congressional hearings? Why are you not discussing this more? Because this is a bipartisan issue. Everybody's into the topic, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, doesn't matter. You want to talk about this. So it's if anything, it's a galvanizing issue to maybe help some serious issues that we want fixing in this country. And again, nobody's ever died because they haven't gotten enough UAP data. Nobody's mother ever got killed because, the video wasn't clear enough. But we have to ask for this stuff. We have to ask for this stuff, and it's our right because we're the taxpayers, you guys. So I hope I hope I didn't light your ass on fire, UFO Blueprint, but you got me going, buddy.
He's mad.
Why?
He's mad.
Why?
But this is the process.
What do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is how our democracy is supposed to work, right? If we as citizens want to engage in our leadership, that's the whole point of senators. We elect our representatives, and they in turn then turn to their constituents and say, hey, this is what I want. And is the system perfect? Of course not. But if we want to get things out of our government, we have to utilize the mechanisms that are given to us, in which case that is engaging with our senators, engaging with the committees, engaging with the scientists and all our defense contractors or anything. It's about getting the word out there, raising public awareness. And he asked or she asked, why public congressional hearings? My question is, why not? That seems to me to be the next logical step. You have the people who can call those committees saying we're going to do it. It's a grand effort, and part of it is raising public awareness. And what better way than having the New York Times, CNN, Fox News, everyone covering a bipartisan, which this day and age, how rare is that, congressional hearing where you have the senators, the people that these faces people in news recognize, literally asking military witnesses about UFOs. I mean, if you think about that for a second, that's crazy. That's crazy. And
it's one of the few things. It's one of the few things that was voted on where only one side of the aisle voted. Only one person said nay.
Right.
Everyone else, Republican, Democrat, said, "Yep, I want to know more about that."
Right.
So the curiosity is there.
Everything else, it's like party line. And here it's our pilots are kind of maybe in danger and seeing weird things. Like, who's going to say, forget them?
Right.
That's not a very. Like, who's going to say that?
Right. ABG says the next logical step is what AVI is doing. And I agree. So here's the thing, guys. We can do more things than one, right? We can do more things at a time than just one thing. We can do what AVI is doing. We can go push the government. There are other folks who can do all kinds of different things. We can be here as, stupid radio personalities on fucking YouTube and, yell about this stuff just because there's 183 of you watching right now, right? That if it gets to 183 of you and you talk to somebody and you talk to somebody and you talk to somebody, we're doing a tiny little part. Everything matters. Everything matters.
Well, Lou Elizondo has said it a lot of times. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off. You talk.
Go for it.
Well, no, Lou Elizondo said is exactly what you said. Every time he goes on a show, he's like, it's because of you, because of what you're doing right now, the show that you're doing, the people that are watching, your fans, your following, your colleagues, as he likes to call them, not followers, because he always thinks of people as equals. So you're right. And by the way, Big Phone Home, September 4th, 5th, and 6th.
There it is.
4th, 5th, and 6th. Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
You were saying, Kristen?
Yes, Kristen.
I thought it was important that what Avi's doing is so powerful is because he's disappointed in the scientists that, he didn't come out and say that, but I get a strong
today, he didn't talk shit about Neil deGrasse Tyson today.
Well, we didn't bring him up, though, to be fair.
But he's disappointed and other scientists for being too conservative, for not asking questions, for having lost their creativity and their childlike wonder. And he thinks that's their job. And that's why science is suffering. And that's why people aren't openly talking about this, because for how many years scientists have been terrified to discuss this topic. And it's silly. And he's right. And so he'll change things with what he's doing. And then in other arenas, we can change things.
High five.
Yep.
High five.
Amen.
That's what I'm talking about.
Amen.
Right?
Plane.
How many
plane.
things? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, plane.
Oh, no.
No, I think you guys are all dead on. I think the whole point of this is when I was young, my father would tell me you're either gaining ground or you're losing ground. And he would also say you can do something or you can do nothing. And so I think on the political side, what you guys are doing with the big phone home, I'm not an activist. I'm a writer. I'll definitely cover it. But I can tell you that there, as Daniel said, there are a handful of tools available. And those are the tools that democracy gives us. And you use them. And there are a handful of science institutions that are now going to look at this. We do. I mean, the government's now looking at it. The military's looking at it. NASA's looking at it. Harvard private groups are looking at it. I used to hear a lot, well, everyone has a cell phone camera now. How come we're not seeing clear pictures of UFOs? And I think a lot of science people and people that know telescopes and photography and these UAP at home and these sort of efforts, UAPX, these sort of things, are looking at it and going, actually, the cell phone camera isn't the right model. What you need is this telescope, this camera, this thing. And they're just setting out to do it. And I think that's the biggest difference. I think that's the, everything changed in the 90s when we found out there were planets around other stars. Scientists all started changing their mindset. We have astrobiologists. I talked to 4 astrobiologists for the story I wrote about searching for alien artifacts. It's not just Paul Davies. It's not just Avi Loeb. I'm talking to people from NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center, people that are behind the scenes that we don't even know, that are, go read my story on the debrief about the history of this. But yeah, NASA held a workshop on this in 2018 and said, let's start putting efforts into looking for alien artifacts, defining what those search parameters would be. And now with places like Harvard jumping in, all these private efforts, I think we should support all of these things. If it's something you're interested in, if you're curious and you want to see the truth behind this, why not have every effort? What's the worst thing that comes out of congressional hearing? Lies? Whatever.
Yeah, no, I was going to pop in with like the worst thing that cell phone cameras can do is speed. Like they're terrible with motion. They can get great things in other arenas, but motion is really difficult. So how do you expect that we're going to capture?
Yep.
Well, not only motion, but distance. Like if it's far away, it's garbage. And here's the thing, man. Like this is something I wanted to ask Avi, but I had to pop out. And that is, he said that, a photo is worth 64,000 words. I think that's how many words he had in his book.
Right.
Yeah. And my whole thing is, we keep hearing all the time from people, photos are the worst evidence. Because you get a photo, even if it did come from a scientist, let's say, the thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed to me about the fake moon landing photos and videos and stuff, right, was like, I don't know the context. I don't know where this video comes from. Is this a NASA approved video? Is it who shot it? What camera was used? All of these questions that you can't verify from a video that just popped up online. Well, so if they get a killer picture, right? I mean, is it going to be met with the same bullcrap this time?
Well, Luis, if I can jump in real quick
Please.
again, I'm sorry. Avi Loeb was specifically at that point, he was talking about Oumuamua, and he was talking about the idea that his book was 66,000 words of theory, as opposed to if we had known the object would come and had shot a rocket up there, got a photo of it, then there would not be this argument of, well, it's so thin and it reacted to the sun in this way that it's either material we've never seen before, an object we've never seen before, or something artificial. And in his case, this philosophy, so a picture would be worth 1,000 words. Now, yes, I do think he applied it to the current effort, but I got to tell you, if they have their telescopes up and they give me a picture of the triangle flying around at 120,000 feet, I'll be interested to see it.
Well, yeah, and I also think that we're in the information age of deep fakes, and we are moving to this weird world of nobody believing anything unless they have a preconceived gut notion to do it. Unless they are already biased, they're not going to believe it. So that's a big problem that we're going to have to overcome. Now, will people trust somebody like Avi Loeb if he comes and says, look, we've got the imagery, we've got the photography? I think they're going to be way more likely to trust an Avi Loeb than they're going to be able to trust me or Lou or Daniel or Rather or Kristen or Chris, right? So I think there's huge value in what they're doing, and I don't think that we do kind of live in this post-truth world, but I think there are, I think you can garner enough trust, and I think that's part of the reason why Avi wants to get away from the government and not use the government data, because if he comes forward and shows us something and he's in any way related to the government, guess what? Guess what people are going to think? This is deep state bullshit. This is this is that, this is the other. This is the only way around that.
Right. No, that's a good point. I think that's probably the best point for not wanting the government information. But that's why I wanted to specify, well, we don't have to take the classified stuff. We can take the stuff that's public. Again, like the public information right now is just not solid enough for science, but it's solid enough for them to start a Galileo project.
Right.
And it's solid enough for them for some reason all of a sudden to start talking about it, but it's not solid enough to put into the scientific equation. That's where I'm kind of like, what the bleep, man? Like, what's going on here? Like, it's almost like they want their cake and eat it too. They want to have the discussion, but they don't want to, and I'm glad that he said that we're open to bringing in the fringe aspect of this. We're open to those ideas. We're open to those theories. So that's relieving to hear. I think if the data is there, it's safe to say that the Galileo project will look at it. Now, whether or not they'll put it into their equation, into their hypothesis or final thoughts on this, we're going to have to wait and see.
Right.
What is cool is they said they're keeping the data open. So even if they don't do it, that doesn't mean someone else can.
Right.
Which is always nice. That's the great thing too, is if it's anything to do with the government, that data, you never see in that data.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what he's trying to do.
Well, I was going to say, it looks like Rather's got something to say.
Rather.
I agree with all you guys. I think that the data is important. I think that probably he doesn't want the government data because if there's anything hidden about that government data, he doesn't want to present a case to the public and then say the details that I base these conclusions are hidden. He wants everything to be out in the public. And also scientists, big part of scientists and experiments is control, right? They want to be able to control everything. So I think that's why they don't want to look at past cases, because that's completely out of their control. They want to look at something that they have absolute confidence over everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, we said yesterday, right, that we have to give science the ability, because we've always wanted them in the conversation. We always wanted them on this side of the fence, and now they're dipping the toe into the water. They're sort of peering over the neighbor's fence, and they're like, "Hey, neighbor, what's your name again?" It's UAP. Oh yeah, can I talk to you for a second? And now, now they're having the conversation, but this is what it looks like. If science is going to draw the line, clear everything off the table and say, okay, let's start from scratch. Let's build this data from scratch so that way there's no questions about it. There's no doubt. There's no hearsay. This is what it is. And I think that's the smart way to go about it. I know a lot of folks are going to be pissed that you're ignoring all of this history and all of this data. But again, we can't dictate to the scientists how to do their experiment.
Well, and I also think, Lou, you made a good point earlier when you mentioned the fishing analogy to him, because we said, well, if somebody else told you there's a good fishing spot, would you go look? And he said yes, right? So if we do have certain data coming out of the government that people can look at, that the scientists can look at in the Galileo project, and then go, let's go look at Guadalupe Island. They are not going to shy away from that. And he said that. Avi said that.
Or let's attach an EMP device to a balloon and see if we can track one of these suckers. You know what I'm saying?
That's an interesting.
I'm just saying, this is fringe thinking. That's
Right.
something that Elizondo talks about all the time. Like the EMP devices, how they may even take them down, or there might be ways to bait these things to come out.
Right.
And if that's there, then why wouldn't you try the experiment, especially if it's cheap and it's repeatable? Why wouldn't you do it?
Does anybody have?
You might have gotten in a lot of trouble as a kid, Lou.
Who?
Experimenting with things.
Who, Lou?
Yes.
Oh, I bet he did. I guarantee it.
A little bit here and there.
I would love to,
Yeah, go
well,
ahead.
I would love if they announce where these telescopes are for someone like Greer or another CE5 group to go out there, camp out there, and do some meditation. Try to get these out for us.
Well, I thought you were going to go the other direction. I thought you were going to say that Greer was going to go in and like drop some flares to trick the scientists.
That could happen too.
That being said, what do you guys make of this question at Singularity? What do you guys think of AVI suggesting the plane wave P1000 rather than a smaller, nimbler imaging system, considering atmospheric distortion is the main limiting factor? Now, I didn't hear him say P1000. Like I don't have any expertise on this. Does anybody in the room have any expertise on this?
Well, this is a plane wave, so why don't we ask
No.
him?
I don't know all about telescopes. I can
I
tell
don't
you
know what
one
a
about
plane
the
wave
James
is.
Webb telescope. You want to know about that?
Well, do you
Right.
think? Actually, I do. Do you think the James Webb Telescope will be helpful in this process? Is this something that they can use to collect data from, or is this not
So
something
that's
that? Would...
Don Galileo from the Goddard Space Flight Center at NASA said exactly that. That the tools we have going up, they keep talking about the VRO observatory, the Veril that's going up in a couple of years, 23, I think, and James Webb's like a couple of months away. It's October now, November, I guess, but it's going up this year. There's a bunch of other observatories going up. They're hoping to rebuild Arecibo. I think all of those things are in play. All those tools are in play. And they talked about it again. If you go to my story, I don't remember all the details because I covered a lot of pieces to it. But yeah, there's definitely using those tools to look for those sort of things. One thing I would tell you that I thought was really interesting is there was a group called the LunaScan project, and what they did in 2016 was they took all the high resolution images from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and they scanned through them using AI software, whatever that's worth, and they came up with some unusual features. And they came up in particular with a couple that they said were unlike any other geography and any other material, and seemed to be maybe even entrances. And like they said, we're just doing mathematics here. We're just saying it looks like different composition, different material. They're a totally legit organization. And that's one of the programs that's being pushed by some NASA scientists and other types, are taking these Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter images, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. We have decades of those images and tons of high-def stuff, and having software look at it to look for artifacts on planets, not just in the atmosphere. So that's one of those type of projects being proposed to look for artifacts right here in our solar system.
That's fantastic. For those of you, thank you so much, Chris. For those of you just joining us, if you are new to the show, this is the Singularity Lab. We are here every Tuesday and Thursday. All you got to do to know whenever we go live is click the subscription button below and click the bell. We're also here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the Unidentified Celebrity Review. So make sure you follow the links in the link tree to follow us over there as well. If you want to support the show, all you got to do is hit the Patreon, or you can do a super chat anytime. We've got an amazing panel here for you. We're going to be going for about another 30 minutes on this topic. We also got something interesting I wanted to share with you guys here in a second. But for those of you who don't know, we've got Rather Be Squidding with us today. He's a UFO enthusiast and researcher. His YouTube channel, Rather Be Squidding, focuses on cutting edge science and technology and UAP news. Thank you so much for being with us today, Rather. We've also got Chris Plain, who is the head science writer for The Debrief, as well as a fiction writer of the Heirloom Ores series.
Yeah,
Welcome, Chris.
See my book right there.
There it is. We've also got Daniel Miller here. He's an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science. His curiosity has led him to the UAP topic. He's also a political junkie and focused on the movement and efforts within the U.S. government and scientific community. We've got my lovely wife, Kristen, to the right. She has one of the things that she tweeted recently. I'm not going to say it here because it is not something you should know about unless you are following her on Twitter at KMataluni. And then we've also got
Space
Luis
Richards.
Luis Jimenez from the Unidentified Celebrity Review, always bringing you the most up-to-date news information on the UAP phenomenon. So welcome, everybody. So I have a question for you guys. Has anybody here heard of this thing called UAP at Home? Is anybody here familiar with this?
I saw the website. It's like I got a countdown clock or something, right?
Yeah, well, I saw
know.
McMillan. I saw McMillan,
McMillan.
tweeted
Yeah,
that out, and I
he
looked
did
at
that
it today. I
emoji.
was like, what is this?
Yeah. We were having a discussion in the debrief group chat about it today, and I guess he tweeted something out that they put more info up on the page, or I don't know.
Let's see if I
trying
can
to find out.
share.
We don't know what it is yet, but if we find out, we'll let you know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's
Yeah.
just this page. It's a
Yeah, well,
page with just a countdown timer on it. Sorry,
Well,
go
I'm
ahead.
curious. I'm curious to know if it's the countdown to the congressional report.
See.
Because
how many days left on it?
I believe it's about
Oh.
77 days. If somebody counts out 77 days and it lands, I believe the date, because we're doing the big phone home, I believe a month before this happens. So if I'm not mistaken,
I'm just going to come out and say it. This is not us. We are not marketing anything.
Yep.
This is not Lou.
Nope.
This is not me.
I wanted to say
McMillan
that
tweeted about it.
I wanted
What
to
did he
say that
tweet?
the report was due the 21st of October.
Man,
But I could be
that's
wrong on
close
that.
to that date for sure.
I think it is.
Join the search for UAP. Do you
I'll
guys
find out.
remember
I'm gonna count
SETI
the
at
day.
home?
What's that?
Do you guys remember SETI at home? Where you were? This is just maybe a little younger Danny nerdy thing I did at home, but SETI back in the day, I guess, didn't have the computing it needed to go through all the data it was receiving, and so instead of using a supercomputer, it would just have people all over the world download a client, and they would use their own processing power to help analyze data for SETI. So I
Every
wonder if maybe
computer
this
went
is
to
something
browser,
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing that came to mind for this was To the Stars Academy was back, a couple years ago now. We're pitching a iPhone app where you would, if you saw a UAP, you'd press a button and it would detect where your camera's pointing and send that off to other people so that they could then look into the sky and capture data too. That app never seemed to really hit the public, and I wonder maybe if that would be something like this.
Okay, so the date 77 days from now is October 12th. I was 2 days off.
Wow.
Oh, so that does not correlate?
No, I think it does. I think it does. I have to go back and check the original date of when they announced that congressional report.
Oh, wait, look.
Wow,
Look what we
yeah.
got. Look what we got. Look
Speak
what
of
we
the
got.
Oh no! What? No way!
UAP at Home
Okay.
is a global effort to collect and process UAP data. Anyone with PC can help collect video data and apply machine learning algorithms to the video data. 100% free. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Set it at home.
Well, there you go.
Not received.
You got it right.
There you
Danny.
go.
There you go.
Handsome and smart. Throw him off.
How come? I'm just curious, UAP at Home, why it doesn't say this on the website.
That's a good question too.
Got us talking about
I
it.
guess he gave you an exclusive. Whoever it is or she gave you an exclusive.
I think we got the exclusive here, didn't we?
Yeah, maybe I'll write it up.
Did we? Did we?
I'm pretty sure.
I think we just got an exclusive.
I don't.
That's cool.
I mean, I know none of us know, but I feel like, somebody had to. Look, maybe we should go back to McMillan's original tweet. I wonder if anybody answered it in the tweet thread.
That's what I'm trying to do on my phone right now.
Okay,
Like
cool.
it was
Let me see.
literally just
Here,
him
you guys-
tweeting it with the
Oh,
emoji
you know what?
that has the.
Oh, look what he writes now, or she, UAP at Home. It's a mystery. All right, you, whoever the hell you are, UAP at Home. Who are you? Who's running this website? Tell us some damn answers, man. This is not open source. This is not inclusive. This is a mystery. This is mysterious. I don't like it.
There is a
now he's
Twitter
always
account.
looking.
There is a Twitter account, UAP at Home.
Yeah.
UAP ATHOME, 53 followers, so it looks brand new. Jake Mann is following it. That's interesting.
He knows what's going on.
Is Sean Cahill, Elizondo, or
Let me
Rogue
see.
UAPTF following it?
Disclosure Team, Jake Mann, Project Unity, Zignal. I want to know. Christopher Plain is following it. Terry Martin, Aaron Desario is following it, and Zach Seachy is following it. Interesting.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna go follow it.
I just followed it myself.
Yeah, right.
All right.
I followed it. I'm like, if that shit breaks, I'm writing that up immediately.
All right. I see what you're either in here to get more followers or you're in here to give us some actual information. Either way, well played, sir.
Well, and they're following the Galileo project and Brian Keating. So it'd be really interesting if they're involved with that.
Oh yeah, I wonder if they're affiliated.
Oh, it's only two.
And they've only got what looks like just one tweet, huh? Help solve the world's greatest mystery. Join the search for UAP with the click of a button.
Interesting.
I'll click.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up.
I'll definitely click.
When did McMillan tweet on this? Do we know?
I believe it was. I thought I saw it today. I could have the date.
Oh, there's a new one. The one I saw was a few days ago.
Yeah, a couple
Okay.
days ago.
Okay, so yeah, I think I saw it today. So.
Oh yeah. It just says just says UAP at home, and then with a kind of a emoji. That's a curiosity emoji. There you go.
Well, he's
There you
told
go,
me
boys and
nothing,
girls.
So he has not told me anything. So if he knows something, he's keeping it close.
Justin says it's AVI.
Yeah. Oh man.
Now, that would be awesome.
Man, what a mind bender that would be.
Yeah, Avi's not on social media, but he's in the side chat.
That's right.
Of
UFO Blueprint, big UAP at home guy.
Like the cut of your jib.
Yeah.
You resetting the row. You just did that.
Yeah.
Just reset the room. Yeah, we did. Thank you so much,
Mike,
Chris.
Hey, what do you want? I'm out of it today. Before my internet craps out again, because I found out it's the neighborhood, not my Wi-Fi. Because even though I'm hardwired, I had to bump out of you guys for a minute again. I just wanted to. It is a small possibility, but a distinct one, that Harrison Fagan from the Silver Screen and Roll website, who I'm hoping to get a job writing for on the side, is watching this right now. So if he is watching right now, Harrison, this panel will just tell you how awesome I am. All right, Mike, go.
I mean, you've got a Han Solo blaster in the background. I mean, I think that's pretty much your cool card right
pretty
there.
awesome. I will say that I think I like the left side better.
You like this? That was when I was that way?
No.
That's your right side.
My actual left.
Oh yeah.
My actual
Yeah,
left.
that's.
See, I know the left and the right thing, Mike. See,
that right there.
I know the two
That right-
direction thing.
I would say your left side is Ernest Hemingway. Your right side,
My
Skid
niece
Row.
cut my hair and it's already getting long.
Daniel got that. He
That's all
lives
I
in
just
LA.
wanted
Yeah, I think I'm the only one.
Bio-nerd.
have these
4.
sort of hijinks on the UCR. Okay, this is Familiarity Lab where you get the
We got to get you on UCR, by the way.
might
Bio-nerd, $4.99 donation might happen. Check out Astronomers Without Borders. They sail amazing entry level 8-inch scope, and the funds go towards teaching astronomy in developing countries. Hey, that's a nice little tidbit right there. I think that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. Do you have the supercomputer? I don't think it's a supercomputer, but it's definitely a specialized computer and the camera system to attach to that 8-inch scope. That's the thing, right?
If you think of that SETI at home where you could use your screensaver to kind of analyze their signal data, think of the processor power of computers today, of everybody's phone, of the advances we made. So if this UAP at home is a project in that vein where they're farming out the data and we're able to run it, I mean, I'll download the screensaver. I'll let it run when my PC's not going. And I think, we have a lot faster stuff. That thing was like in the 90s, if I remember, SETI at home. So,
Yeah.
the computing power that could be brought to bear to an effort like that would be really impressive.
Thank you for
And
the
it'd be
donation.
something we can do finally, you know? It's like I said before, you're either gaining ground or losing ground. You're either doing something or you're doing nothing, and it's something we could do. Everybody that's passionate about this, along with clicking the bell and following the Singularity Lab, my favorite podcast.
What a guy.
That's
What a guy.
I was going to say, maybe I'm curious to know if that 8-inch scope can be connected to what UAP at Home might be working on.
Ooh.
Because if that's a bridge that can be gapped, you know, or not a bridge that can be gapped, but a crevice that can be gapped with a bridge.
Could be bridge.
Yeah, there you go. But you know what's also hilarious? Here's what I find hilarious about the Galileo project. In like 2 days, they got 2,808 followers following no one. No one. Zero. That's a gangster move, dude.
Yeah.
You know, people are into your shit when you don't have to follow anyone. That's just, I found that hilarious. Anyway.
Did you see this, Lou? UFO Blueprint. Can the hacker guy get me on as a panelist on here? That's what it has come to. I think UFO Blueprint is like ready to throw down with Louise.
Well, you know what? I mean, we haven't.
Bring them on right now.
Yeah, we haven't done a call in a while.
We could drop the link. We could drop the UFO Blueprint.
We haven't done. You can give us a call right now. Just make sure you have Google Chrome. Make sure you're connected to a Wi-Fi connection. And I mean, he's on Twitter. You can send it to him in a private chat if you don't want to put it in the public.
I'm just gonna bop it right here in
there you go.
The mainstream. We'll see if he's got the guts.
Yeah, you got the guts, the Wi-Fi connection, and don't be naked.
Yeah, and just real quick, UAP at Home also commented saying that you can hook up cameras like that and telescopes.
Here it is right here.
That's pretty cool.
Wait, what?
Wow. He wrote, absolutely. UAP at Home supports USB, IP, RTSP, V4, L2, and most DSLR cameras on the market. You had me at absolutely.
I understood half of that.
Will UAP at Home please tell us what pronoun you prefer so we won't keep calling you he?
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Thank you for being so woke, Chris.
That's such a 2021 question. If I'm going to take a bet, I'm going to say it's a he, because I think this is a sausage party.
AVI LOEB was like, no, Lou, it is not.
No. I'm glad,
not.
but I'm glad I asked the question, right? Like a third of his scientists are women, so that's comforting, right? It wasn't a gotcha question. When I quickly looked over all of the scientists in there, I didn't notice any women's names in there, so that's why I asked. And again, it's something that I'm guilty of as well.
Team. Well, there's a research team and there's a board of directors, and I think I think there's quite a few more women on the research team.
Okay, that's where I screwed up. I think I was looking at the board of directors, not the researchers.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So yeah, feel free to hop in UFO Blueprint if you like. If not, it's okay. We can definitely bring you on another time to have a debate with Lou. That would be fantastic.
Fan-freaking-tastic, man.
Fan-freaking-tastic. All right, so I have as we wrap up, we got about 10 minutes to go here, and I don't want to push anybody out, but I do want to kind of hit on this last little topic. What do you guys think regarding Project Galileo? One of the biggest concerns that I have is, what if we don't come up with anything within a year or a year and a half or 2 years? Do we retool? Does this go down as another Condon report? Are we looking? What are we thinking here, boys and girls? What do you think? Rather, you go first.
Rather,
go ahead.
Yeah,
no, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't prove a negative. So if these things aren't actually occurring, how are you gonna? What's the end point, right? I think that's a great question, and it's unclear. I think that hopefully they find some anomalies that they can actually study and actually, make a determine one way or the other. But yeah, I don't know how long they go on if they don't find anything. That's a big concern of mine.
Chris Plain.
Yeah. Chris Plain? Christopher Plain?
I don't know. That was all I had.
Dude, I have never ever struggled to get Chris Plain to say a word ever in my whole life.
Well, there you go. You just found it. I think it's.
Here he goes. Wait, here he goes.
As soon as somebody else starts talking is when all of a sudden he becomes a genius. What do you got?
whenever this Luis it is, Luis. I don't know why that won't stick. It's a
Jack Ryan wants to know cream cheese or butter, Chris.
Oh, he knows.
Statement.
Yeah, it's a statement.
I turned it into a question.
Jack knows. He knows this for a fact, and I
turned it into a
explain
question.
why again.
Have you ever tried both?
Yes.
I do both.
Yeah,
I do
sure.
both.
I think we could definitely, they could find nothing. But again, you either look or you don't look, right? And I think what might be interesting is if simultaneous with the effort by the DoD, this is going on. If we had some events that overlap, if we had an event that the Department of Defense came across and said, okay, my pilot saw something weird, and Avi and his team went to their equipment and their material and said, we were looking at that area at that time. Here's what we saw or didn't see, or vice versa. So I think there's a opportunity for something unique to happen in that manner, especially because stuff is coming so fast. I mean, we're hearing about 2019 incidents, and when Tim McMillan at the Debrief wrote the recent, I think it was part 2 of that 3-part, and yes, part 4 is still coming, by the way. When he was working on part 2, the pilot Ryan Graves, who had seen a lot of this in 2019, said the people he knows that are there are seeing it today. They're seeing it now. So why not point these things in areas that we know stuff is going on? Because we're learning about it pretty quick now from the military. Right. We're not hearing about Tic Tacs 17 years later. We're hearing about stuff months, days, weeks afterwards.
Well, and that's one of the things that I appreciated that Avi said. He said he's willing to look in the direction. He's not willing to take classified information, but he's willing to look in the direction. But he also said he wonders how much of this is a sort of confirmation bias or an awareness bias. Because you're looking in this place, you're finding them here, as opposed to being able to look further around. So I think, I think it's an interesting question.
Yep. Well, I'll say this.
PPF, they said the same. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Luis.
No. You got my name right. You continue.
No, I admitted it. Scandalous. In the UAPTF, they said the same thing. It was possibly a collection bias because of where the data is. You know what? I got to say this. Eyewitness bias would say that the military is seeing a lot more, not just a collection bias. So, maybe the military has more sensors or has more cameras or more satellites, and those are recording more of these events. But eyewitness bias, just people everywhere, you hear a lot more from ex-military now, a lot more ex-military pilots. So I think that concentration has a fair amount of validity beyond just a selection bias.
Just selection bias. Okay.
Yeah. I'll also say there's 2 things. The first, just to say about the collection bias and pilots that are talking about it more nowadays. I think if you get pilots or service members in the right setting, just as long as it's not public, they'll tell you everything they've seen. They've got no issues telling you at all, because most of the times no one's sworn them to secrecy on this stuff. No one's come in and said, okay, you're not allowed to talk about this, but they don't talk about it because they know it's not great for their career, especially if they're retired and they're flying for, a commercial airliner or something like that. But to answer the original question, I think it's going to depend on how much money they raise, Michael. If they raise 1.75 million, let's say they only get 5 million, then 2 years, this is done. But if they raise 100 million, you can try stuff now. You're allowed to fail with $100 million. Whereas if you only have $3 to $5 million, you're not allowed to fail. You need to get a return on that investment. And I don't think millionaires, no matter how rich they are, I know billionaires and millionaires, one thing they hate doing is spending their own money. They want to get tax breaks, they want to get incentives, they want to get their investment back, their investment, and most times they take the money from government grants anyway, but or subsidies, but it's going to depend on how much money they get. That's going to be huge. So this next year, absolutely. I think is going to be absolutely critical for Project Galileo, because if they can raise even in the 50 to 60 million range would be really, really great start. And if in that 50, 60 million dollar budget, they have a breakthrough of some kind, or they have a huge data point that they've discovered, now you're talking about some real investment dollars. But I think they're going to have to put some proof on the table or something that just says, okay, look at this. Okay, investors, check this out. This is going to be huge, and this is why you should reinvest in this, or this is how we're going to go out and attract new investors into doing it. So yeah, I think the next year is going to be absolutely critical, but don't expect anything for a year. They really are going to have to pull resources together. They're going to have to pull volunteers. There's so much organization that they're going to have to do. So my piece of advice, anyone out there to keeping an eye on the Galileo project, manage your expectations and be insanely patient. And also don't expect crafts, alien bodies. Insane video, like just don't expect that stuff. Just expect boring science stuff, and that's because that's what it's going to be, especially for this first year, because they're going to be figuring out how to coordinate all this stuff. So just be patient.
Yeah, I as unsexy as that sounds, that's exactly right.
It's not sexy at all.
And I know, and we talk about this too, when we talk about, when we were prepping for the UAPTF report, this was the same conversation we were having then. Do not expect anything to come out of this. Because yes, exactly as rebelliously curious George says, science is boring. It's slow. It's methodical.
Oh no, he says it isn't. He said it isn't boring. He said it isn't boring. You misread it. And I will say, reading is fundamental. But look, science. Let's be honest.
Depends on who you are. It depends on who you are.
It depends on the field of science. But let's be honest. Science is boring. It is like it. Not if you're the scientist. Obviously, this is your passion. This is what you're into. But for an everyday outsider, they're like, wait a second. You studied fungi for 4 years?
Right.
Okay, like it's just. It's tedious for most people. I won't say it's boring, but it is tedious. The real scientific process is very, very tedious. I don't think this scientific process will be boring to us because this is the topic that we are interested in. Right. But what
Lou, the gauntlet has been thrown down.
Fishing is boring. It is boring. You can go 5 hours fishing and not catch a damn thing, right? But you do get other experiences while you're fishing. But yes, I agree. It is boring.
We're catching more shit now.
Being bored is very important for proper development in childhood, actually.
Being bored. Yes, being bored.
Having nothing to do.
Yeah, it actually inspires creativity versus being spoon-fed entertainment like this show is doing to you all.
Stupid show.
No, but it is funny because like the gauntlet got thrown down here. Tixonator says, "Hey, screw you, Luis. Fungi are fucking amazing." I think we have more controversy now than we did when AVI LOEB was on.
Than ever before. Okay, so science isn't boring. I stand corrected, but it is tedious. And I'm just saying, set your expectations. This is going to be a long process. That's it. I love science. I think it's very fascinating. I find it interesting. That's why I love I always talk about the Curse of Oak Island. But I mean, it is the scientific method in a show. It is the most boring show in the world. But if you like the scientific method, it's fun to watch. You'll like it. That's all. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
I agree. So, by the way, guys, thank you all for being here today. It was a tremendous panel, tremendous show. I'm really thrilled. I think for anybody who was interested in this topic in 2015 or 2010 or 1995 or 1974 or 1964, you would be blown away by what we're experiencing in 2021 when it comes to science looking into this phenomenon, when it comes to the government looking into this phenomenon, and the communication and what's happening is just truly extraordinary. So if you're a little disappointed, if you're wanting the science to move faster, just know that we've come so far, and it's because of folks like you here in the chat who are interested and pushing for full transparency and disclosure from both the government and the scientific community. So thank you for that. Thank you to those of you who are on the panel today. Christopher Plain, thank you so much for joining us. You are the man, the myth, the legend. For those of you who aren't following Chris on Twitter, make sure you do that. Also, follow him over at the Debrief.
One last thing here, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. The floor is yours, my friend.
Over at the Debrief, stories come and go. We get tips all the time. This sounds interesting. That sounds interesting. And a lot of those stories don't stick. Right now, across the writing staff there, if you heard the stories that we are working on, the things that people are telling us behind the scenes, and the stuff we have coming, it's really getting exciting. Not just in UAP, but yes, in UAP as well, but in science and technology. I'm hearing stuff, and stuff is coming out in the next couple of months. It's really going to be amazing. So keep coming over there and clicking, because we're doing well, and good, crazy stories are coming. I've hinted at a couple at Mike, and his eyes have gone wide. So,
Chris, can you tell people what your Twitter handle is?
I'm at plain_fiction. Because
Fantastic.
my last name is Plain, and I write fiction.
Yes, but not for the debrief, ladies and gentlemen.
But no, mostly not fiction. Maybe every
Boy,
once in a while.
You just painted yourself in a corner, buddy. All right, Mr. Plain, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Ciao.
Kristen Mataluni, thank you so much for joining us today.
No. Wait a second. You don't want to kick your wife out right now, right?
I mean, she can stay or she can go. It's up to her.
Yeah, no, we always leave Kristen for last. I feel so bad. Kick out this guy. Look at this good-looking chap. You
Daniel
know,
Miller, get the hell out. We're tired of seeing your mug.
Your beautiful, perfect, chiseled mug.
His chiseled mug. Make
sure I do the show.
Yeah. What is your Twitter handle, by the way, Daniel?
At SICOP1, SICCOP1. Drop by, say hi. I clearly love talking about this stuff or anything.
Fantastic. And for those of you who are producing films or television series,
yes,
this gentleman is an actor in LA, so feel free to hit him up.
And since we're also in the same demographic, make sure you call me into that audition too, because clearly we go out for the same parts, right?
See Lou in the audition room all the time. He always gets it.
All the time. Yeah. Always steal parts from this guy. All right, dude. We'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by, Daniel.
Absolute pleasure, brother. Appreciate it. For those of you who like breaking science, why do you keep trying to kick Kristen out, Lou?
I'm not, dude. That's just what automatically pops up. It's the algorithm. It's
the algorithm. Blame the algorithm. Thank you so much for joining us, Rather Be Squidding. If you are a fan of science, fringe, breaking technology, if you like a little bit of a skeptical dose to your breaking technology, make sure you follow Rather Be Squidding on YouTube. Rather, what's your Twitter handle?
At Be Squidding. I'd just like to say science isn't boring, so come over to Rather Be Squidding and I'll show you why.
Like I said, I stand corrected.
Well
I stand
done.
corrected. And you can also check out Rather's beautiful smile every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Unidentified Celebrity Review, where he co-hosts with us as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rather.
All right, Rather. We'll see your boring ass later.
All right. And Kristen no.
There we go. This is what we should do here. There we go.
There it is.
There
now
it is.
We're free. What a show, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody in the Chatterverse who has helped make this show amazing. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You're truly extraordinary. Rebelliously Curious. Nightgazer. Now I've Become Death. Aaron Desario. Tina. How do we pronounce Tina's last name?
Tamazuski.
Tina Tomaszewski is truly extraordinary.
Tamazuski.
It says T-O-M. It's T-O-M.
Oh, Tomaszewski. All right, you're right.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, Tomaszewski.
She's amazing.
Reading is fundamental.
She's been extraordinary in helping us moderate the show. She's been extraordinary in helping people find the links that we talk about. Tina, we are forever in your debt. Thank you so much for all you do for us. We really appreciate it.
Truly appreciate it. Also, we want to say thank you to Artemis, Our Lady Artemis. I like to call her Artemis
Our
Prime.
Lady of Artemis.
Koskinen. Artemis Koskinen.
We're not very good.
I'm gonna have a tough time with last names
we have
today.
Nobody that we've worked with whose last name is like Brown.
Easy. Yeah.
I know.
It's a good point.
What?
Well, we do have Chris Plain. Chris Plain.
Thank goodness.
That's That's a good one. But he doesn't,
Thank
he's
you.
not in here like giving links and stuff.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true. He's not. Artemis is, though. So thank you so much, Artemis. We appreciate all you do for the show. What an amazing group of people who support us every single day here in the chat. You guys are the reason we're here. So we just thank you so much. And I don't mean to be all sappy, but y'all make it all worthwhile. All right, guys. We are going to be back on UCR tomorrow night. Luis, you want to share who the guest is going to be?
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to have on Jane Kyle. We're going to be, for the first hour, we're going to be talking about the history of Roswell. And appearance on the new show, the Discovery Channel show, Discovery Plus show, Roswell, The Final Verdict, which is a really cool take on Roswell, and even rather admitted, it got him thinking differently about the story. So we're gonna talk to her about it, get her perspectives, because she was in the show. So that's gonna be a lot of fun, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. And then second hour, I think we'll end up talking about tomorrow at high noon. Jeremy Corbell's gonna be releasing an interview with which pilot was it? God, his name is skipping my brain right now.
Oh, I didn't know that. I missed that.
Yeah, he's having a discussion with one of the pilots that filmed the Nuts encounter. I don't know why I'm forgetting this pilot's name. Anyway, it's going to be a high noon release tomorrow. It's going to be the first time he's ever been on camera. So that should be a cool interview. That should be something fun to talk about. So keep an eye out for that. And then on Friday, we've got Daniel Otis from Vice Magazine's Chad Underwood. Thank you, Chad, for popping that in there. The pilot's name is Chad Underwood that he'll be talking to. And then on Friday, we've got Daniel Otis from Vice Magazine stopping by. He's got a new article that's going to be coming out. So hopefully we'll get some details out of him in regards to that.
That's fan-freaking-tastic. On Thursday, here on the Singularity Lab, we've got Dr. Massimo Tiardini. He's an Italian physicist who is studying Norway's Hesdalen Valley for decades. This dude he was pretty much doing what Avi Loeb is doing now here in the U.S. There, and he's got some pretty extraordinary research and data that he's going to be sharing with us here on the Singularity Lab on Thursday. Norway's Hesdalen Valley. He's been studying there for decades with the University College of Norway and the National Institute of Astrophysics. So that's going to be exciting here on the Singularity Lab. And we've also got Jazz Shaw coming back to the Singularity Lab because he wrote a 4,000-word article about the dolphin UAP theory. And we're going to be discussing that in the second hour on Thursday. So that
it is
be,
officially no longer a joke. This is a real theory that Jazz is putting on the table. And he's right when he says it's just as good as your alien theory. It's true.
He's not wrong.
Because I don't know. I don't know what's in those damn Tic Tacs. But man, I can't wait. Cannot wait to launch our merch. I think you guys are gonna dig the merch. We got a lot of cool dolphin Tic Tac stuff in there. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. It's coming so soon. I know. I've been promising that, but we're so close. We're so close.
Oh boy. Aaron says no. Is he going to be washing it? You're going to be washing your cat that night. I don't know. I was hoping you might come on the Singularity Lab, Aaron, to chat with us. But you're washing your cat. Guess you're washing your cat.
Yeah.
Let's see. Again, you guys are amazing. Check us out tomorrow on UCR. Make sure you follow and click the link and subscribe button right now.
All right,
Adios.
dude. Well, I guess we'll see all you guys tomorrow. Peace.